Well, hello, everybody. This is your host of the Beautiful Bag podcast. My name is LeeAnne Hayden. It is so great to have you here this week. And this week, I am bringing you an amazing episode with an interview that I did with Nadia. And before we get into it, I just want to say thank you always for listening to this podcast, for always jumping in on board and sending me your emails and your messages on social media of how much you enjoy this podcast. I truly appreciate every single one of you. So if you find value in any of these podcast episodes, I always appreciate it. Just screenshot it, share it into your stories, tag me in it. I will reshare, I promise. And it truly is a blessing. And also thank you for your 5-star reviews and also for your subscription to listening to this podcast. But before we get into this episode, I just got to tell you a little story. During this episode, I had been ready to prep for my colonoscopy, which was happening the next day. And typically the old-fashioned way is you eat in the morning and then you start your Duke Relax in the afternoon, and then you start drinking whatever that yucky drink is they have you drinking, right? So you guys know. So this time they had me do it in a whole different prep way of no fiber for a few days, no nuts, yada, yada, yada. And they had me take the Duke Relax in the morning. Well, I wasn't thinking, guys, and this interview was going on around probably noontime, 2:00 in the afternoon. Between noon and 2 was when we were recording it. And towards the end of the recording, I feel my bag filling up. I'm just like, oh, I think this is happening. I'm filling the bag up. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for this. We're recording and I want to continue with this interview because it was so good and it was almost done. And so then I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I'm sitting at home. Nobody knows. Nobody can see this. And so, but I'm sharing with you guys. So now you know. And all of a sudden I start to feel like a little like pain because now I'm like, oh, now it's getting under my flange. My flange is starting to pull off my skin, that bandage feeling, right? So then I'm like, okay, this is happening. Continue on asking her questions. Let her finish the podcast. She is so amazing. I love her story. And I said to her right when we ended, I'm like, okay, listen, I just had an explosion. I got to go into the other room. I can't talk. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I get off the phone. We get off the call, which you're going to hear. And I have to go jump and take a shower. It was that bad, like literally that bad. I had to go shower and wash all my clothes and all of that stuff. So I'm just telling you this because I'm a very open book. And I want you guys to know that this stuff happens. It happens. And what are we going to do when this stuff happens? Are we just going to continue on with what we're doing and deal with it? That's what I did. Okay. So just had to tell you that story before we get started on this interview. And without further ado, here you go. Here's this week's episode. Okay, there we go. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. I am your host, LeeAnne Hayden, coming at you from the lovely state of New Hampshire. And today I am joined by Nadia, who is coming to us from Toronto, Canada. And we were just having a little discussion, about her journey. And I think it's going to be a topic that you guys are going to really appreciate. So Nadia, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, love it. I love it. I love having, I just love meeting other people we're all alike and we're all different at the same time, if that makes any sense. Right.
Yep.
We've all had our own journeys and our own ways of getting to being in an ostomy. And I love it that you reached out and you were like, hey, I got a story. Can I share? I'm like, absolutely. The more, the merrier. So let's talk about that. So we were just talking and you were telling me, you had UC at the age of 15. And then I won't, you know what? I'm not even gonna tell you a story. You tell your story.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, or UC, at 15. And so I was very young. It was a lot to take in, a lot to navigate, especially at a young age, and not really knowing much about the disease at all at the time. And so I spent, many years flaring, not flaring, and going on different medications and being part of, a couple of clinical trials as well for IBD. And Last year, I was actually still part of a clinical trial, right? I was in almost my fifth year of a clinical trial, and that's when I started noticing that I was having, some UC symptoms, and I brought them up to my care nurse as well as my gastroenterologist, and so we started to do some investigation, and then about almost a year ago now, I found out that I had actually colorectal cancer. And it was early stages, so I didn't need to do any treatment or anything, but I did have to have a total proctocolectomy. So I had everything removed, large intestine, rectum, everything, and that just happened in January of this year. So I'm about 9 months post-op.
All right. So you're just like, you just had a newborn baby, right?
Yeah,
So you're
it
9 months,
really is like that. Yeah, it really
right?
is like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about that, right? So how has the last 9 months been? Because you're so new at this, and a lot of people that I interview, we've been in. I mean, I've had mine for almost 8 years now, so it's just second nature. Nothing affects me really anymore. But let's talk about that. Like, what has this last 9 months like been like for you?
So it's definitely been an adjustment. I mean, having IBD for most of my life, I always knew that, having an ostomy was a potential outcome, right? If, for example, my medications weren't working and things weren't, not going well. But, I was in shock because I was technically in remission with my UC, and then this happens, and then it was like I had no choice, no time to process the fact that I was going to be having this surgery and having both, the ostomy surgery and the Barbie butt surgery at the same time. Right. So it was a lot to process. It was a lot to take in. And even just learning all the ins and outs of living with an ostomy and the different products that are out there, right, finding what works well for you. Yeah, it was a lot of an adjustment. It was a huge grieving process of grieving your old life and welcoming your new one, right? And I feel like sometimes it's a love-hate kind of thing still.
Yeah. And that never goes away.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, that never goes away. It's like I put on an outfit the other day and I was like, oh, I could see my bag through it, or
Yeah.
my ostomy, my stoma sticks out like about almost 2 inches sometimes, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's down to an inch. And so I'm sitting there like, oh, like these pants don't fit because of those extra inches. So yeah, it's always a process, but you said, coming home and adjusting, and you're right, having that total, having your colon removed and your rectum and the Barbie butt all at the same time it's like, how do you sit? How do you stand? How do you lay down? So how was that for you?
So it was very difficult trying to find different positions like that were comfortable, and so many different pillows and this and that, and always having a heating pad around, right, because that would give me some comfort as well. And then sleep was always and it still kind of is an adjustment, right, because I have a high output ileostomy, right? So, I never get a full night's rest, right? Even, you try to control it with, not eating so late at night or what have you, but, you still got to wake up. I wake up for sure like 1 to 3 times a night, right, to empty my ostomy. So that part's been really hard too, because it kind of reminded me of when I would be in a flare up with my UC, right? But I guess because I was kind of spoiled with being in remission for almost 5 years, right? I forgot what that felt like, right? And yeah, it's been an adjustment for sure.
So how do you get along with that? Like you said, you wake up and you have to empty your bag between 1 and 3 times a night. How do you, because sleep is important,
Yeah.
right? It's one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. How do you manage your days through that?
So I've kind of created a system, especially now I'm just kind of getting back into work, right? I started back at work a few weeks ago, and I'm on a gradual return, which is good. And everybody's been so helpful and supportive and everything. So I kind of like made myself a little bit of a schedule, right? So I kind of will figure if I go in bed, say around like 10, between 10 and 11, then I know around like, for sure around 2, I'll have to wake up. And, then if I wake up like another time it would probably be around 5, and then that's kind of when I start my day, right? So I just use that as my starting of my day, and I've been trying to get back into my workout routine as well, and I prefer to work out in the morning anyway. So since I'm up, I take that as instead of looking at it as a negative, like, oh, I have to wake up now, I got, my sleep was interrupted. I kind of take it as, this is now, I'm going to start my day, I'll do my workout. I feel much better usually after I do it. So I get my energy starts going, right? So
yeah, working out is it's amazing. It's an
yeah.
amazing thing for your brain, for your body, for your whole thing. So what kind of workouts do you do?
So I do, it's a combination of weights and cardio. I do follow, like I use the Beachbody workouts, but I do modified versions of some of the workouts. Some of the exercises I can't do with the ostomy, just because I'm still a little nervous, right, about doing certain movements because it is still kind of fresh, and I know that we're at a risk for getting a hernia and stuff like that, so I don't want to overdo it. So I basically, for exercises that I can't do that are being demonstrated, I just do something that I know that works for me, that won't cause any harm, right? And I work together with a physiotherapist as well. So they've been really active in, helping me do some exercises that will, strengthen my abdomen area, right? To kind of prevent that hernia. Because, they explained to me too, like, you need to strengthen the area, but doing it in a safe way.
Yep, exactly. And it's funny because I have a little, like I've always had, ever since I've had my ostomy, 8 years, I've had a small little hernia that they've watched and watched and what they said, it's so tiny, it's fine. And lately I'm like, oh, I'm thinking I'm feeling something.
Yeah.
So now for some of the core, and core is very important, although we're very afraid to do it, right? You get to a point, it's like, I'm afraid of, can I do the sit-ups? Can I do, you can't push yourself as hard as like people who
You
don't
normally would. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So what kind of core workouts are they having you do? Is it like things like bird dogs and
Yeah.
things like that? Okay.
Yeah, bird dogs. And then there's one that's called like a dead bug exercise. And then I'll do a couple of standing abdominal exercises. So just standing and then kind of bringing your knees up, like walking motion, kind of that type of thing. And planks,
Yep.
side planks, regular planks.
And then that strengthens your entire core, which then in turn gives your ostomy support.
Yes.
Right. The support that you need and the balance that you need and the protection from that. All right. So now you're back to work. So you get up in the day, you take care of your ostomy at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's funny because how many people get up and go to the bathroom at 2 in the morning? It's like that happens anyways.
It does. I know. And it's funny because a lot of people, they get up and they go pee to the right. And I said, well, it's a little bit different because you have to be, awake and aware, or else you can, make a mess. Really big mess. Right. And been there, done that, and never happened again. Right. So yeah, you got to kind of be awake. So that's what I struggled with, like at the beginning, because I would wake up and then I couldn't fall back asleep. Right. So now I'm a lot better. Like it happens still the odd time where I can't fall back asleep, but more so than not, I've kind of, I've trained, this is like, my new normal, right? So go do what I have to do, go back in bed and, don't touch my phone kind of thing. Cause once you start scrolling, right, then that's kind of what keeps you up too.
Yep. It's that blue light, right? It's that light that's on your phone that will keep you awake. So yeah, don't touch the telephone. That's the key thing. Okay. So now you've got your workout in for your day and you feel amazing. And then now you're off to work. So what are we doing for work?
So I still work from home primarily. My job, I'm very fortunate that we still are primarily remote. So that transition has been really good for me because I don't feel, pressured or, embarrassed or anything like that because I haven't really been in the office with my ostomy, right? So it's been an easy transition that way, right? So I just log in to work and it's just an administrative type work that I do in front of the computer. And yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
That's good.
Yeah.
What have you found about when it comes around like to food? right? Foods that you can eat and can't eat. Because I know prior you probably had to stay away because of UC. You had to stay away from a lot of things.
Yeah.
How is it now?
So it's funny because when I was speaking to my surgeon, right, she said you probably will be able to eat more things than you did than when you had UC, and that's true in a lot of cases. And one of the things, for example, that I really liked was grapefruit. And when I was in the clinical trial, I couldn't have it because it interacted with my medication. So that's definitely something that I enjoy, right? I just remove like the thicker um, skin that's on the inside there, and I just eat the flesh. So that's pretty good. And a lot of the foods that I avoid, I was already avoiding, right? So for example, like corn, popcorn, that kind of thing, it was difficult to digest with UC. So those things were things that I would avoid. But some things that I do miss a lot are mushrooms, for example, and pineapple, right? So I don't have those.
Okay. And how come?
So from when I was in hospital, those are a couple of the foods that were considered a high risk for blockage,
Okay.
right? And I know some other people who have an ileostomy do eat them, right? But I'm still,
Still new. You're
I'm
still
still
new.
new. Yeah, I'm still nervous about it. And sushi, the same thing. I haven't had sushi since before my surgery. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
girlfriend.
And that's something I really like because I know with the seaweed, like you have to chew it really well, and sometimes I don't chew the sushi really well, so I'm a little nervous about it.
hmm And blockages can happen.
Yes.
Have you had one yet?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had one, my like 6 weeks post-op. I started introducing more things, right? Because in the first 6 weeks, I was kind of just on a low residue, low fiber diet. And so I had mango, and it wasn't the first time that I had the mango, but I guess maybe I didn't chew it properly while I was I don't know, right? But I had a partial blockage and I was in really agonizing pain for like almost 8 hours.
Yeah. It's scary. I have had a couple of blockages to the point where I had to go to the hospital and do an NG tube to get whatever I had eaten out of me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was pretty tough. That was pretty tough to do. And so, I got really careful. It's like, I don't do kale. I stay away from kale. I stay away from like, I eat salads. They don't like regular lettuce and stuff. That doesn't affect me too much. But it's the real hard roughage that can do it. But the other thing too that I learned from my doctor was that my blockage was caused from adhesions that had been floating around in your body that
Yeah.
attached around the colon.
Right.
And you have to wait and give the colon a break for that adhesion to loosen up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And just kind of, sometimes they just stick. So, yeah. So there's the thing about blockages, and in a lot of the girls we're talking about, one girl that I know, she drinks a Coca-Cola with every meal. Like she has sips of Coke, and I don't drink soda. Like I just don't, but she'll get a Coke with every meal so she can eat, because there's something inside Coca-Cola that helps break down and clear blockages.
Yeah. I like Coke too. I usually will have a Coke Zero. So too, if
Yep.
I feel like something isn't like quite moving along, I'll have like either I'll have a coffee, like a hot coffee or a peppermint tea or a Coke or sparkling water, something. Like I feel like it just helps move things along.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. Oh gosh, there's so many questions. So how about, because you're new, so it's like, how about clothes? How about finding like your old clothes to new clothes? Have you had to make changes?
I usually I wore leggings
Mm-hmm.
24/7, right? And I still wear my leggings. I thought I couldn't wear them, and I still wear them. I didn't wear them at the beginning just because they were so tight and because my abdomen was swollen. I felt like even certain like jogging pants, if the waist was too tight, like it would put pressure on my belly button,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that was uncomfortable for me. So at the beginning, it was a lot of like loose fitting stuff. But now I do wear a lot of things that I wore pre-surgery,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I am finding that everything is going okay and well, but there was a few times where, I went through my closet and I
So we froze there for a minute. So now
Yeah.
we're going to get back into talking about clothing.
Yes. Okay. So, in terms of clothing, pre-surgery, I wore a lot of like leggings, right? I did wear a lot of like more close fitting, fitting clothing. So right after my surgery, I couldn't just because of the pressure that I felt, if things were tight, like on my abdomen and everything was still healing. And then when I started feeling better, I did wear jeans here and there. But then I did have a moment where, I kind of went through my closet and certain things that kind of showed the outline of like the bag and stuff too much. I just didn't feel comfortable wearing, right? And at the end of the day, it's really a personal thing because some people, they feel comfortable if it shows or if it doesn't show. And I just didn't feel comfortable at the time, right? And, or even showing like my ostomy pouch at all, right? But I kind of broke through that bit of a barrier as well, like even on social media and showing my pouch like out, right? Just for, raising awareness and breaking that stigma. And I feel like after I did that, I started to feel more comfortable in my own skin, right? And just feeling more like, I don't want to say like normal. I'm going to put it in quotations, right?
Traditional. Well, I
Yeah.
use the word traditional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So when did you start showing your pouch on social media, and what made you, so I have two questions here. When and what made you decide to do that?
So I was contemplating it because, I do follow a lot of other social media accounts of people that live with either an ileostomy or colostomy. And, I see that how confident they are in, not only showing their ostomy pouch, but actually doing a full like bag change, on social media, right? To kind of break that stigma and raise awareness for it. So that's what kind of was prompting me. And I kind of kept going back and forth about it, right? And then one night I just did it. Right. And I posted it. And I remember I asked my husband, you know what I mean? I showed him the picture. I'm like, I don't know, should I post this? And then I asked my cousin if I should post it. And they kind of they gave me that extra, go ahead and little push. And so
Yeah.
I just did it. Right. And, now I don't feel self-conscious about it. Right.
Right. Right. That's awesome. That is awesome. And it's amazing how freeing that is.
Yes. Yes. That's a perfect
Absolutely
word.
amazing how freeing that is.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. It's rare that I get to talk to somebody who's so new, who's like the newbie back. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're sharing. If there was a couple of other things that you would want to share, like what are some of the other experiences that you've had over the last 9 months?
So a lot of fears and anxiety also came around. I have two children, right? They're both school age. My daughter's 12, my son's 9.5, right? And how they would adapt to
Mhm.
me having an ostomy, but also with, telling them that, I had cancer and stuff. And so it was a very difficult time, right? So I kind of waited a bit until I was more sure about, the staging of my cancer and stuff. So then I would be able to answer any of the questions that they might have, right? Because I didn't want to answer them half-heartedly, right? I wanted them to, also feel comfortable and also feel secure, right? In everything that was happening, right? Because, as much as we try to protect them from everything, they do pick up on things, they will sense things, right? They could tell like that I was preoccupied and, tense, right? Because it was the fear of the unknown,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So that was a big thing. And then also in sharing on social media, right? Like, for example, even on TikTok, like my daughter, some of her friends have TikTok, right? So at first, that was one of the things that kind of held me back from showing, my ostomy pouch on there because I wasn't sure if it would have any repercussions on my kids.
Oh, that's true. And I'm betting that it didn't because you're
It
out
did
there.
not.
It's showing, right? You're out there showing it off. You're probably more of an inspiration to those children and to your children.
Yeah, I hope so. And it's funny because one of my daughter's friends' moms is like, because the mom doesn't have TikTok, but her daughter does, so she'll show her. And because even when I would just talk about, my my recovery journey after surgery, and just where I was at. I would kind of do like a weekly or every few weeks do a little update. She would be like, Mom, I don't understand like what she means, kind of thing. So it was nice to
Be
for
able to share.
yeah,
Yeah.
and show that these things happen, and having an ostomy is not a bad thing. It's a life-saving thing, right? If they didn't have these procedures, right, it could have been a very different outcome, right? So
Definitely could have been years ago. It would have been, right?
yeah,
Years ago. Not
yeah.
even that long ago, too. It would have been just totally a different outcome. So what are some of the things that you're looking forward to doing now?
So now I'm really looking forward to continuing to advocate, right? So I do have, my social media, my blog, Gutsy Girl Diaries, that I had started in advocating for IBD and invisible digestive diseases. And so now that's become, I still advocate for IBD because I still feel like it's, even though I technically don't have a colon, so I don't have UC anymore, but it's always kind of a part of me. So I still use that to advocate for IBD, for colorectal cancer, and now for living with an ostomy, right? So I feel like it's really important to share our journey, and we're stronger together. I always say that. And I really did get a positive response from sharing my story. A lot of people sending me private messages saying, oh, I have an ostomy too, or my partner has an ostomy, and, thank you for sharing. And this is really helping me. So that stuff is also very rewarding.
It really is. It really is. And I'm so glad that you reached out and you were like, I want to tell, can I tell my story? I'm like, absolutely, right? More the merrier. And that goes to all of you that are listening, right? Your stories are important. You're important. We got the second chance in life for a reason, right? So let's
Yes.
use that second chance to do something good, So Nadia, I always ask this question. Everybody's always ready for it. Well, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. If there was one thing, just one thing you could leave our audience with, what would it be?
So the one thing I would leave the audience with is, not to fear the ostomy if you need one, right? It does completely change your life, but there are so many positive things. It kind of gives you your life back, right? And I know that a lot of people, I know for myself, I suffered for many years through flare-ups, doing everything possible to avoid this surgery, because not only for the stigma that's placed from outside people, but the stigma I placed on myself, right? That, how I would not be, the same as I was. And to be honest, as much as it was this adjustment, I'm able to, do many things that I did pre-surgery. So.
Right. I love that. I love that. Well, Nadia, thank you so, so much for being here with us. And guys, I'm going to leave Nadia's information, her website, all of her social media channels right in the show notes so you can get in touch with her.
Thank you.
Nadia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers.